In today's episode, you're going to learn how you can increase your brain power by closing the loop. Stay tuned.
You're listening to the Wellness Simplified podcast. Simple wellness tips to help you improve your life without turning it upside down. With your host, award-winning fitness instructor, nutrition coach, and wellness expert, Susie Phoebens.
Well, welcome back to the podcast. Today, as I said, we're going to be talking about closing the loop. And you might be wondering what the heck I'm even talking about, but I hope that I'm going to make this pretty clear and a nice little quick episode so that you can get on with your day and, close a few loops. So we've all heard that you should finish what you start, and instead of getting distracted mid-task, you should stick with the task you're doing and you'll get it done more quickly. In fact, there's this whole theory based on, well, actually, I don't know where he got it, but Todd Herman's 90-day year, where he breaks down a workday and says, pretend you have 4 blocks of time in a workday, and if you work on project A, B, C, and D all in one workday, it's going to take you forever to get any of those projects done. But if you just worked on project A for those 4 units, or however many units it was going to take, you'd get it done in a day and you can move on. So staying on task, staying on one topic can help you to get a whole lot more done in less time. And easier said than done, I know, because you go to do one thing and you see something else that, you meant to do this, and then you stop and you do that, and it's very easy to get distracted. I do it constantly. I just did it this morning when I logged into ConvertKit to make sure that I had somebody tagged properly. I realized I remembered somebody from last week that I had to make sure was tagged properly, because even though I have these automations set up, they don't always work, and I got distracted that quickly having to go check on something that should have been done last week. These things happen. So closing the loop can mean a lot of things. It can mean finish the task that you start, but that's not what I mean for it to mean today. That was a terribly constructed sentence, but that's not what I mean. Yes, whenever possible, finish what you start, but that's not where we're going with this today. By now, you know that I love my analogies, so we're going to use an analogy here for closing the loop. I want you to imagine a web browser. Now, I know that there are 2 types of people out there. There are the people who have a billion tabs open at any given time, because that's how they do their bookmarking, is they just give a tab open to the sites that they visit frequently. And then there's the other people who just have bookmarks. I am the bookmarker. The only time I have multiple tabs open is if I'm doing something and I require the ability to go back and forth between 2 sites to cross-reference, etc. Neither one is right or wrong. It's just people do things their own way. So regardless of which person you are, I want you to imagine that you, yourself, are an internet browser. Okay, I want you to imagine yourself as Safari or Google Chrome. And instead of having tabs open for bookmarks, you have tabs open to remind you to complete things. I do know that some people have tabs open to remind them that they need to complete things, but that's neither here nor there. Let's imagine that every single open tab is something that you have to remember to do. Now, an example from my past is I was a Fabletics VIP member, or whatever they call the monthly member. So I would have to remember to go in and skip the month every single month if I didn't want to be charged. Sure, they send you an email, but you know how easy it is to misplace or not see an email until it's too late. So every month I'd have to go in and I'd have to do that. And I very rarely bought anything from Fabletics. I mean, I did when they first came out, but then I didn't. And the only reason I hadn't canceled is because you had to call, and I hate making a phone call. So in my brain, I had a tab that was always open for Fabletics because I needed to deal with that every single month. The same thing with Just Fab. Back when they first came out, I joined. I got a couple of pair of shoes. I didn't like any of them, and I didn't cancel because I had to make a phone call. So every month, I had to go in and skip the month. So those are not really taxing things. It's a matter of a couple clicks. But the day that I actually canceled those 2 memberships, and by the way, they say you need to call, but I did both of them over their customer service chat. So the day that I canceled both of those memberships, even though it was such a minuscule thing, literally took maybe 90 seconds a month, I felt so free. It had just cleared that brain space that I had to reserve to remember to do that every single month. I just didn't have to do it anymore. I was able to close that tab and never worry about it again. Now, there are different ways that you could handle that. If you didn't want to cancel and you wanted to not have to keep that brain power, I have also set up actions in If This Then That, IFTTT.com, and also I have emails that I send to myself, and then I snooze them for 30 days for things that I need to remember to do. So like clients who are on coaching plans and I need to check in with them on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, I will send myself an email, and then in Gmail you can snooze emails. So I will snooze it until the next time I need to check in with them, and then I don't have to try to remember to do it. So there's a lot of little things in our lives that we can sort of put on automatic mode so we don't have to remember them, so that we can quote unquote close the loop. And then there's a lot of other things that we can just straight up close the loop on and forget about and never have to deal with again. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit more, because I want to talk about why this is important. These may seem like little things, and they can be, but they're really important because they do consume mental energy and it occupies brain space. And we have to monitor them in our brain because our brain knows that they are works in progress. They are not completed tasks. And we get anxious when too many of these cycles remain open. So when we have too many of those tabs open, if you're somebody like me who doesn't like having all this stuff open, if you opened up your internet browser and you saw 15 tabs open, oh my gosh, that would give me such anxiety. It's the same as people who have like a gazillion emails in their inbox. Oh gosh, I can't deal with that at all. I know everybody's different, so some people that is their sorting system, but for me, just seeing that gives me anxiety. So it's the same when we have too many uncompleted tasks in our brain. It's just taking up too much energy to maintain them. So they register sort of like clutter. So if you think of your brain as a closet, you just have all this stuff that's kind of on the floor and you just keep pushing it to the side and say, I'll deal with that later. And then the next time you encounter it, you push it to a different side and you never really deal with it. Another way to think of it is like the RAM in your computer. The more RAM you have available, the smoother your computer works, the better you are able to watch videos. There's less buffering, there's less crashes. Everything just works so much better. So when we complete a cycle or close a tab or free up brain RAM, we're like superpowering our brain. And like, how awesome is that? So let's talk about some ways that we can close the loop. And there are some just daily tasks or weekly tasks that we can automate to do that for us. So some things you can do is sorting your mail and dealing with it as soon as it comes in. I do that as soon as it comes in. If it's trash, it goes in the trash. If it's something I need to deal with, I put it on my desk. If it's something I don't need to deal with and I need to keep, I put it down in our filing cabinet, and everything else either gets trashed or read or whatever. Paying bills instead of letting them pile up. Most of our bills are set on automatic, so I just have to make sure that there's money in the bank account when they get done, but I don't have to worry about them being overdue because they're just automatically going to get paid. Having a specific place to keep your car keys. That's another one. I tend to keep mine in my coat pocket, so that's pretty easy. When you get home from doing the groceries, if you have things that need to be dealt with, like maybe you like to wash your vegetables all at once, or maybe you buy large packages of meat or protein and you like to divide those up and put them in the freezer, do it right then. Listen, I'm not a big chicken fan, and my husband likes to have chicken for lunch, so I buy boneless, skinless chicken breasts every week. I'm not eating them. I am not dealing with them. So I leave it to him to put them in separate containers or bags and put them in the freezer because he just uses them a little bit at a time. And there's been a number of times that I'm like, dude, you got to deal with this chicken. It's going to go bad. And that is taking up my RAM. It's not taking up his. He's not considering that chicken in the least, but every time I open the fridge, I see it's still sitting there. So it is, I have to be a bit of a nag about it because it is taking up my brain space, not his, to think about it. Hanging up your coat when you come in the door, putting your dirty clothes in the laundry basket. Another good one is, especially these days, if you go to like the superstore, like I do, and you use the green bins and you bring the green bins into your house to put your groceries away, and then you let them sit there at the doorway for the next week, just take them right back out to your car. Just take them back out there. There's so many different ways. And Another great one, if you have a smartphone or if you have Alexa or Google or any of those lovely devices, when you run out of something in the kitchen, immediately tell Siri or Alexa to put it on the grocery list. And then when you go to get groceries, you can just pull that list up and you don't have to think, oh, what was it that we were out of? So just this morning, I put something on the list. I can't remember what it is. It doesn't matter because Alexa knows. Let's pull up Alexa. Let's see what it was. I really have no idea. I told her to put something on the list. Gosh. Butter. See, that was an hour ago. I've already completely forgotten. I told her to put butter on the list. We're not completely out, but we're getting low. So if you have any of those types of devices, you can just simplify it. Like your smartphone, you can have it set up so you can say, hey Siri, or hey whomever you have on Android. I don't know. Was it Google? I don't know. I have no idea. But it doesn't take you any extra time because you can just say it with your voice while you're doing whatever you're doing, and then it's done. You don't have to think about it. Other things that may seem ridiculously simple or stupid is making appointments when you're at the appointment. So after you get your hair cut, make your next haircut appointment. When you're at the dentist, make your next dentist appointment. If you're at the doctor and you know you need to have a follow-up in 6 months' time, make the appointment right then. Then you don't have to remember it. You just have to remember to go to the appointment. And once again, if you have a smartphone, you can put it in your calendar and get a reminder. If you don't, you can send yourself an email and snooze it until 3 days before the appointment. And most of those places will call or email you to remind you of appointments anyway. Simplifying as many of those things as you can so you can keep closing out those tabs to free up that space in your brain is fantastic. Now, that's all well and good. That is all well and good. But right now, in this moment, as you're sitting here listening, you have a bunch of tabs that are already open in your brain that are probably one-time things that you could do and be done with them. Things like dropping off those donations to the charity shop or Value Village or wherever, taking a bunch of refundables back to the depot, which is something that I absolutely need to do. Clean out the freezer. These things that are not glamorous or fun, but they're things that you need to do once and then they're over. What did I do recently? Oh, I know. I removed the burnt out lights from my pre-lit Christmas tree. That was back in January, but I was dreading that so much, and for good reason. That was a horrible task. But it needed to be done. Well, it didn't need. I could leave the burnt out lights on forever if I wanted to, but I didn't. But now that it's done forever. And it was something that I've been thinking about for a couple of years. And yes, it took a couple hours. It was not a fun task, but it's done now. It's done. And we all have some of those things that are just one-time things. You don't have to do them all at once. Make a list and start tackling them 1 week at a time. Choose a couple quick, easy ones first. Get yourself some easy, quick wins. That is my favorite way to start. And then you can go from there. Closing the loop does take some consideration, but if you get a bunch of these things on automatic, like we've talked about earlier, then you don't need to worry about it. And then the things that are open in your brain right now that are one-time things, start getting them done and start freeing up that brain space. Yes, it will take you time in the moment, but then it is done and it's going to free up time for the foreseeable future. So that is my challenge for you this week, is to make a list of things that you can do to close the loop, get it out of your brain, shut down some of those tabs, free up some brain space so that you can focus on the things that matter. Thanks so much for listening. As always, you can follow me on Instagram at Susie Confesses, on Facebook at facebook.com/confessions of a fitness instructor. You can find me also on confessionsofaFitnessInstructor.com, and welluniversity.ca is my virtual wellness studio. I would love to hear from you, and if all else fails, you can always email me at info@susiefevens.ca. The links for all of those are in the bio under the description. Have a wonderful weekend. Go close some loops, and I'll talk to you next week.